And this thing was just powering through everything. And we got the footage of us like tearing up through hills and tearing up through like all the dirt and stuff like that. And then day 2 is where it got a little bit more, the competition started coming out. So various individuals, let's call them, had a bit of a competition who could go fastest. We videoed it. I think the record we got was 117 on dirt.
Hey guys, Dave Smith, and this is the Factory 5 podcast, Solid Car Guys, and I am with not just a solid car guy, but a solid guy. Dan Walsh, he is our British distributor, so if you want to build a Cobra, a Coupe, a Hot Rod in Great Britain, he's the guy to talk to. But today, welcome Dan, I want to hear about your adventure. You've been on the road for 2 weeks. You flew out from UK. All right, so everybody knows we have a new XTF truck. The capabilities of the truck, I don't think the world knows about, but they're about to find out. So start from the beginning. Welcome, by the way. It's been fun having you here. You going to lunch today?
Yep.
All right. Tell us how this whole adventure started, because you just finished about a 5,000-mile round trip.
Yeah, it was a bit of a crazy one. So we started off, you guys produced the XTF. I was like, it's kind of a cool truck. We got some potential on that. So I spoke to a buddy of mine. Obviously, I'm ex-military. We spent quite a bit of time in it. And
yeah, this is important. You're ex-military in UK.
Yeah.
And what a lot of people don't know, I was raised in a Navy family, is UK and US, we are the closest allies.
Yeah.
And so you've got some great contacts in the US military.
Yeah, so we got some good contacts over here.
So how did all this come
and
about?
Everything like that. So it kind of ended up the usual sort of thing. Had a few beers. Thought, I'll tell you what, let's phone a buddy, show him a video, and see what happened. And you'd done some testing out in New Mexico. Sent me a couple of videos over, and I was like, yeah, it's pretty cool, but we can go crazy.
So you showed a buddy a video of the XTF.
Yeah. So
when we were in Ocotillo, California with Fox Shocks.
Yeah. So we sent a video of that over to them, and they were like, we need to see this truck. Like, just bring it to us.
Who's them?
So it's some guys over at the US Navy. So they were keen to see it and play with it. So it all kind of came around with that. We got it all together, got the key players in place and all that sort of stuff. And then, flew out from the UK to Boston to the Factory 5. Got in the XTF, went on the Ultimate Lads road trip holiday, 2,800 miles one way. We crossed all of the US. Well, not all of it. Suppose there's 5,000 miles left.
But I had California left.
Yeah, we'll kind of write that one.
You know, I think that where I got in was Nate said, hey, do you mind if Dan jumps in the XTF, the supercharged carbon fiber prototype that we've been beating up, right, and drives it out to Fallon, Nevada? I'm like, yeah, sure. Maybe you should just trailer it out. But you showed up literally days later.
Yeah.
You and Nate had hatched this plan.
Yeah, we'd hatched this plan together. We were going to originally drive it out. Didn't really think it through too much. And then Nate and yourself suggested the idea of maybe you trailer it just in case you get a little bit too crazy. We thought probably a better idea trailering it in case we break it. We've got to get home somehow. Then we started on the journey, drove all the way over. The journey was long. It was interesting. We saw a lot of the States.
You arrived here a week ago.
Yeah.
And you got here, I think it was on a Wednesday. You jumped in the truck and trailer. The XTF was on the trailer.
Yep.
And you and your buddy Dave drove to Nevada.
Yep. Straight out.
Almost 3,000 miles. Not a big deal.
Too easy. Easy day.
Yeah.
We road tripped across, got there, and then offloaded the truck to do some testing. That's where it gets a lot of fun. The guys got pretty crazy. They tested.
Wait a minute. So this is at the U.S. Naval Weapons Center in Fallon, Nevada, and you can talk about some of this, but there's a lot of stuff you can't talk about. But basically, the Navy SEALs want to test and give a run on the XTF.
Yeah. So they wanted. They're looking at possibilities for new upgrade platforms all the time, and we thought we'd throw this one into the mix and see what they think and what they want to use. So they were keen to test it. Obviously, Factory 5 had done some testing beforehand and things like that. Excuse me. And we decided, let's push it to the limits. Let's see if we can break this truck because, we got a trailer, we can bring it back. So, we gave it some good testing. So some real hard testing.
Right, so we've got some footage that we can use that is been cleared that's not sensitive in any way. And these guys are just good guys. I mean, it looks like you drove the truck and you were telling me that, when those guys jumped in the seat, they just dropped the hammer. And what you were there for 3 days? It was testing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Was it? How did it work?
So we tested for Monday, Tuesday.
Yeah.
So we arrived on the lunchtime of Monday. Before we'd even got the truck off the trailer, the guys were like, "Just give us the keys. We want to play. Just give it to me." As soon as we told them it's supercharged, 800 horse, full carbon fiber, it can jump, it can do whatever. They were like, "Okay, we'll prove that. Let's go test this out." So we went for a run out to their training area out in the desert, and just straight off the bat, they were like, had to turn traction control off, had to turn all the like grown up buttons off. So went through all of that, turned all that
Right.
off. We've since found out since we come back, there's a sports button on there. So we're going to go back next week and have another go because that's a whole new set of testing we've got to do.
But this is the spec on the truck, so that everybody knows, is this is an F-150. We built the prototype. It's got the full chassis. It's got the upgraded Fox shocks after a week of testing out west with Fox. So it's got the latest suspension. It's kind of a mule, though. I mean, the thing was a 125,000 mile truck. And I was like, well, don't you want to take like the nicer, and you're like, no, we want the beast. We want the mule. And that truck has a 5-liter motor, stock 5-liter with an Edelbrock blower on it. I think it's a Whipple charger. And it's not Edelbrock. Dave, who is the supercharger? Was it Pro Charger? I think it's
Magnus supercharger.
Yeah, okay. That was making probably 625, 630 horse. It had basically the spare tire carrier in the center. Didn't have a cage though.
Nope.
And from the video I saw, probably should have put a cage in it. But those guys
cage it for sissies.
So they jump in. This was the first day of testing.
Yeah, so first day of testing, we got there. One of their head instructors jumped in it. So cool dude. He knows his stuff. He drives trucks for a living. He's good at this sort of thing. This is his backyard.
Was this guy you're telling me was a Baja 1000 guy?
No, so this is one of the
other
standard team guys. He took it out, and bear in mind, I've never really driven that truck. He's never driven that truck. We're doing like 85, 90 across dirt through country lanes. We went from 85 into a pendulum turn down to 30, went round a corner at 30, and then floored it back out again. It's a capable truck. And the difference being is, we tested some other vehicles whilst we were out there as well, just to like compare and contrast comparison. But the truck's stable. Like it's flat, it's stable. We're having a conversation driving along. It's like you're doing a Sunday drive kind of thing. And then you look out the window, you're like, hey, we're doing like 89 mile an hour. So that was the first
in open desert.
Yeah, open desert, just straight out of Nevada. Open the gates, go have fun. We then went and did some rock crawling, some jumping around on the dunes and things like that with it. So we went from 4-wheel high to 4-wheel low just to see the break her in gently. We don't want to kill her on the first half hour. So we did it nice and gently,
Right.
built up. By the end of that day, the guys were all over the dune area that they had, and they were trying to get stuck, trying to get broken. Obviously, they've got other vehicles that they were going against on par, which they use operationally. And they were giving it the same amount of abuse they'd give their normal operational vehicles, and they're struggling to get it stuck. The only comment that came back was, could we have a locking rear diff on it? And we're like,
makes sense.
Yeah, you can have a locking rear diff, but you haven't got stuck. So do you really need it? Or is it just something nice to have? And this thing was just powering through everything. And we got the footage of us like tearing up through hills and tearing up through like all the dirt and stuff like that. And then day 2 is where it got a little bit more, the competition started coming out. So various individuals, let's call them, had a bit of a competition who could go fastest. We videoed it. I think the record we got was 117 on dirt.
So flat out 117 over basically washboard roads and open terrain.
Yeah, so
117 miles an hour.
117 coming one way.
From a gearing standpoint, if I remember, that truck, that's about topped out. That truck's about good for 120 with the horsepower it has and the gearing. I think that was the 6-speed, right? It wasn't the 10
also
speed.
maxed it out at 120 as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
So it's a 6-speed box. Having a 10-speed box would have made it a little bit nicer for keeping the speed and keeping it constant. What we found when we were transitioning between corners was the gears were grabbing and not releasing enough and things like that. But that's more like,
remember, we never changed the rear diff in terms of the gear ratio. I think that's a factory rear end. So with those 37-inch tires, that takes a lot of gearing away from you.
And that's
what I mean?
That's the like amazing thing about the truck is it had all of that stock stuff. This isn't built for going racing. This isn't built for going like doing the dumb stuff we were doing
We
in
just
it.
slapped it together as a prototype.
Yeah, it's a prototype truck. So with very, very, very minute refinement, you could go faster, you could go harder. Like the truck is crazy capable.
That's great to hear. And we kind of knew that. And, online you read, there's all these keyboard warriors and they're like, oh, there's a New England solution to a West Coast problem. It's like, no, this truck, no one knows. Hugo Rodriguez, a good friend of mine, he built a GTM down in Puerto Rico. He came up to visit yesterday. You had just driven in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the truck had put gas in it.
Nope.
Took it off the trailer. Nate went with Hugo down to the Cranberry Bogs locally. Hugo's going to buy a stage one. He came back and goes, no, I'm buying the whole truck. It's just too capable. He was blown out of the water. And everybody who's driven that truck has been the same thing. But your guys are kind of, where a guy like me will run 70 miles an hour. These guys went 120 in the dirt. It's crazy.
We were FaceTime.
No fear.
We FaceTime the office to show them that we could do it as we were doing 70 mile an hour just to prove it, because you were like, nah, you can't do that. You can't do that. Watch me.
I love that.
What was quite interesting about the truck, whilst we were out there, and the capability we had from the truck whilst we were out there, is passing it around different guys and things like that. One, they love the truck. The sound of it, the noise of it, what it can do, the capability and stuff like that. But what was really interesting is giving it to the Baja guys, which was later on in the day, on the morning of the second day.
On Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, we basically threw the keys at one of the Baja guys. He owns a Baja team. He does this for a living. This is his backyard. This is bread and butter. We took it down to his test track, and it was the only time out of the 2 days driving that I actually generally felt like, hey, I got a rule. I don't diet before 9 o'clock, and we're getting close to that rule right now. He was jumping over berms, all in 2-wheel drive, because that's where his trucks are.
Yeah, he was smart. He switched over to 2-wheel drive.
Yeah, so he was 2-wheel drive, tearing it up in the desert, jumping over things, having a good time, and he was like, this is a really good truck. Stuck it in 4-wheel drive, and he's like, this is a really, really good truck, because just having that extra grip on the front just completely changes the dynamic of the truck, and it goes from a stable truck already to just a solid platform driving along. Like you've got guys that are very capable drivers driving these vehicles and really pushing them to the limits, but I'm not a crazy good driver. Like, I'm good, but I'm not like crazy good because I'm out of practice. And you're quite happily driving at speed across open desert, and you're like, this is easy. This is like driving normally.
Yeah, a proper race car that's set up right is easy to drive. If you don't know how to drive, you're going to put inputs into the car that are going to make the car do things, and you think it's poorly handling, but you're doing it. I remember when the C7 Corvette came out, Tony Stewart, NASCAR driver, jumped in a C7, and a pro driver is able to get used to a car very quickly. Tony Stewart jumped in the C7, and I think he set the track record at the GM test track, where all the GM drivers had run fast, and he'd never been on the track before. 3 laps into, he set the lap record. A pro driver is just comfortable, gets used to a machine. And so you had a Baja team owner drive the truck. And see, we had gone to O'Neill test grounds up in Vermont, New Hampshire. And so we'd done the rock crawling, 20 inches, articulated rear end. I mean, there wasn't a trail we couldn't get up. I mean, boulder-sized rocks crawling. But it's really hard out here in New England to go, where you were telling me the test facility, you could shoot a rifle bullet and it's going to land within the test range. It's just so huge, hundreds of square miles. It's hard for us to get that kind of testing done out here. It just doesn't, you don't have that kind of terrain, that kind of open country. So we were excited. We knew what it did at Fox's test facility where they developed the Raptor, but we didn't know. And I think, the best of us, there's always that difference between a good driver and a pro. And if a good driver is 5 times better than an average guy, a pro is 10 times better than a good driver. They're just a whole nother league. And you had a Baja guy, and you said the SEALs were just like drop the hammer, all of them.
Yeah.
They had no fear.
Yeah, and they turned into a competition. Like,
that must have been kind of fun, huh?
Someone set 110. Okay, we'll do that. We'll beat that. So they just kept up and down that trail until they got it. And there's a little zigzag-esque bit in the middle of it, and they were clipping the bushes at 110 to keep straight through it, just because they wanted to go faster. If you gave them more power, they would have used more power. But the nice thing about it is you mentioned about the cage and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, the cage is good, but you don't feel like you need the cage. Like, you don't feel like it's going to be uneasy.
Real sure-footed.
Yeah, it's real sure-footed. And like you mentioned about the Raptor earlier on, what was interesting is we we used their Raptors afterwards.
Well, they had Raptors.
Yeah.
So you were going side by side.
Yeah. So they had
Holy
Raptors as support vehicles. And, we'd all drive out in the morning and then, leave the vehicles and then we'll chase them around and stuff like that. Jump in the XTF, I'm doing 78 mile an hour cross country, phoning you guys and talking to you and telling you like, this is the awesome truck. I really want one of these kind of thing. Jump in the Raptor. It's just outright scary. Doing the same terrain, same trail. So nothing different. We've even put it in the Baja settings. So it's got all the Baja settings on there, all the toys on there, flappy counter gearbox, so I can smash through the box and drive it properly and all that sort of stuff. I think the track and the width of the XTF gives it that's your biggest advantage. You're a little bit wider.
Stiff chassis too, and
stiff
tons
chassis,
of travel, right?
And it just flattens it into the ground. And all the suspension is taking out the bumps and all that. At about 45, the Raptor's getting a little bit unstable on the back, and you're like, oh, okay, we're good, but a little bit twitchy. Get up to about 60, 70, which is one-handed in the XTF, looking out the window, minding my own business, having a brew.
Yeah.
In the Raptor, you're fighting it. You're driving now, and you're doing the same trail in the same ruts, the same like behind each other. The only difference is distance because of dust clearing. And the difference between the two of them, and obviously, we're biased. We like the XTF, we want the XTF. But the difference between the two trucks and the capability between the two trucks, and the price difference between the two trucks as well. That's the key thing as well. You can go out and spend, whatever on a Raptor and,
got an F-150, you're ready to go. Yeah.
You got your F-150, you put the kit on it, and you're going to outrun your buddy with a Raptor and make him look like a little child.
That's awesome. That was the goal. I mean, that was clearly the goal. But you don't, you do the testing yourself. And even when we were at Fox, you just don't have those guys. The guys that you're hanging with are a whole different caliber.
Yeah, you're fearless.
They're the best of the best. Yeah, and no fear whatsoever.
And that's the other thing as well is, like you'll never get the true performance of the truck until you give it to a military guy and go try break it. Because everything is like, child proof and stuff like that. Nothing is soldier proof. Nothing.
But you did not break it. No, you did. I saw the bash bar in the front.
Yeah.
One of the videos, thing just cases the nose into a big dirt and just keeps driving, powers through it. The truck didn't break. You ran 3 days of testing. That's pretty impressive with a F-150 that had a 120,000 mile 5.0, and a testament to OEM Ford stuff. Don't open the engine up. Just leave it alone. Put a blower on it. Let it do its thing. It's so well built and so tough. You didn't break anything.
No, the only damages we had from it, and
I told you, beat the crap out of it.
Yeah, you were like,
that's what it's for.
Take a trailer because you're going to kill it. And we're like, okay, we'll give it a go.
I figured you would.
We cracked the front grille. That was purely because we impacted. We tried to jump a rut, and we kind of misjudged how big the rut was, so we hit it about 80.
Jesus.
The credit to the truck, the whole thing compressed, whole thing came back out again, and like the videos on it and stuff. We don't lose speed. We don't get thrown around inside the truck. Like the truck just takes the impact and just flies on through again. We come out of that straight on the supercharger, and then we're screaming 120 down the road again.
So, and we don't know what the future holds. The testing was pretty successful. We're going to talk after this, you and the boys, we're going to talk about engineering changes and things that would make it a better platform for use in the military. I know Banks did a huge amount of work during the Iraq War. I don't know we've never worked with the military in any way, shape, or form, but I have to tell you, we're really impressed with the guys we worked with. And you and your buddy Dave, you got off a plane, jumped in a truck, and drove 3,000 miles that way, 3,000 miles this way. You come back, and we were making fun of these guys. They have different words for things out there in Great Britain, but the truth is, I can't think of two countries that are more similar. And I've always been very patriotic. I love my country, and I hope we have a chance to build some of these trucks. If we do, you're building them. So would you build them here?
Yeah.
That's cool. So what other ideas, whatever the thoughts do you have? I mean, obviously in UK, if someone want to build a Factory 5, you're the man to go to. But on these trucks, what do you think the potential of the future is? I mean, I know how good it is. And I think that once word gets out, I think we're going to sell more than we can make. But for this path, it's really exciting for me, just from a patriotic standpoint. If we can build something that gets our guys in and out of somewhere safely and fast, I'm all for it,
Yeah, there's a lot of potential for it. Like, I've worked on these platforms for quite some time.
You said you were using the Hilux.
Yeah, so we used Hiluxes and we used Land Cruisers.
Yeah.
And
wait, modern Land Cruisers?
Yeah.
Like And what about any of the Range Rover stuff? The
No, so
British stuff?
we didn't
Yeah.
use the British stuff. The British stuff is more like posh days out and that sort of thing. But the Land Cruisers and the not Range Rovers, the Land Cruisers and the Hilux is what we use, out on the
Is
ground
that
sort of
just
thing.
because the chassis is so heavy duty, it can take more
Chassis heavy
weight?
duty. It's Toyota, which is
You put a ton of weight in it. One of the specs I saw was 9 tons.
yeah.
You can't put 9 tons on an F-150 Raptor frame.
No, and that's the thing. Like, if we're going to go down the military route of this, it's a ground up build.
I mean, Dave, if we pull up on the B-roll some of the photos of the XTF chassis, this thing is it's a trellis frame. It looks like a bridge. I mean, it's phenomenally strong. So I would imagine that right off the bat, our chassis has a lot more capability in terms of just weight bearing. We just changed spring rates. We just changed some suspension settings.
And that was one of the big selling points. We had some of the engineer guys come and look at it as well. And that was one of the things they really liked and they really took on from there. Was it's not your standard OEM chassis. There's some thought gone behind it. There's the thought process of, right, I'm going to beat the hell out of this. How are we going to stop it from bending? How are we going to stop it from breaking? The same as what we do with all the other cars. We do the Cobras, the Coupes, the Hot Rods and all that sort of stuff. We build them to take abuse.
Oh, yeah.
And then we just detune them for the street.
That's kind of what we've always been good at. If you look at Factory 5, everybody, what are you good at? We're good at chassis. We're good at chassis engineering, torsional rigidity, stiffness, suspensions. That, when we did at SEMA, we launched the Stage 1. And if you look at a Stage 1 XTF, it really is kind of built similar to a Raptor online. So using a stock frame, we're upgrading upper and lower control arms and shocks in the front, Raptor leaf springs in the back. We're not changing the rear suspension to a 4-link rear. We're keeping more or less the suspension that comes, we're just beefing it up, right? And then we're putting the body kit on it. So for most customers, for 10 grand, the Stage 1 gives you all the looks and a ton of performance. But it really is, then there's this gulf. And if you start with that chassis for 25 grand, you build that brick shithouse chassis, right? And you put the long travel suspension, I think you end up with a truck that those guys can beat the crap out of and survive.
And that is the big difference as well.
Chassis.
It's taking it from this is all right and it looks pretty to this is a truck.
Yeah, but if you think about it, the way guys are using, especially out west, when I lived in Huntington, every Friday night, guys would head out to Riverside, past the desert, out in the Mojave, in the high desert, and they're going to the river. They're going somewhere to play out in the desert, right? My Raptor, I have a 2014 V8 Raptor. It has 75,000 miles on it, and I don't think I've seen a 2-track road. I just been commuting and driving, and a lot of these, high-end trucks, the TRX and stuff, are just really mall crawlers. They're going, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's a badass, cool-looking truck. But if you want to play with the big boys, you got to have that starting point of that chassis. I'm just stoked that it went so well. It was kind of fun. We knew it was good, but we wanted someone else to, come to that conclusion without us telling them.
Yeah, it's like going at it completely off the bat, not touching it. Like, obviously, I've driven the red one when we come out here. Last time I came out, he threw me the keys to the red one. You let me take the red one around, and I was like, "It is a cool truck." There's a couple of knocks and rattles and stuff like that, but you've thrown it together, and it was not long after you'd thrown it together and you were driving around in it. So and all that shit's been ironed out now. It's all good.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's been a year. It's over a year on development. So we're in production on the chassis, and it's solid as a rock. I know the red truck. I just took it home the other day, and the thing that most people say about it, and it really is, when you take a truck and you jack it up, a Jeep, an F-150, any of your GMCs, you're changing the suspension geometry. This was designed. I got on the highway and let's say theoretically I ran it up to 100 miles an hour. Take the hand off the steering wheel. Thing tracks straight as an arrow. It just has it's very sure-footed at speed. Yeah. That's because the suspension was designed for that chassis, for that track, and for that travel. I don't think it's something people really understand how good it is. Every single person who's driven it has mentioned that.
And that's the difference between
high-speed manners.
Yeah. Well, all manners of it. It's having the thought process of, instead of just like, we get it in the UK as well. People go get a Ranger, which is the biggest thing we've got. They jack that thing up. They don't do anything else to it. They just jack it up, and it ends up being top heavy and wallowing everywhere. These things, they almost feel like they've been lowered, but they've been jacked up. It's a really weird sensation. It just grips the road. It hunkers down. You can throw it in the corners. And you're like, oh, I think this is gonna go. This isn't the best idea, but
it just takes it.
Yeah, and it just keeps giving you more and more and more. Like going in the corner, like we're going into corners at stupid speed. Like we started off slow and then built up, built up, built up, built up.
Yeah.
And we were going into like crazy next speed corners on dirt, in dust. And, one corner, we completely stuffed it. Like completely stuffed it, overrun the corner at the apex and stuff like that. Straight into the bush, over the bush, and then just cut back into the trail
Just
again.
keep driving.
And the car's like, yeah, okay. So you missed the corner. Never mind. We made a new one.
Yep.
It's built like that. It's built that, you don't have to be absolutely precise when you're driving. If you miss, it's okay. It's got the grunt that it's going to be smashed through it, or it's just going to go over it and then just keep going. And it likes doing it. That's the other thing. It
wants
just
to get
wants
loose.
to give you more. I think if you change the gearing on that, give us a lock-in diff, put a 10-speed box in that thing would be lethal.
Yeah, and those are easy upgrades. The aftermarket's there. There's two things that people don't know about what we've been doing for the last 2 years. Is if you think about it, most of our business people know us by our Cobras. And I told Jim and Jesper and the boys, we got 4 engineers working on the Mark V program, and we just did a TV show on the prototype, and it just came out yesterday. The Mark V, I told Jim, who's the chief designer, I said, Factory 5 is your competition. The Mark IV, I think, is the best Cobra on the planet. I said, I want a leapfrog product. I don't want to just be a little bit better. I want to be a log scale better, 10 times than the Mark IV in the Mark V. And we've got most of our pricing squared away, but we followed 2 tracks. One is I want the best, highest performing, best handling, strongest, most comfortable to drive, easiest to build, fill in the blank, Cobra replica. And we just are about to launch the Mark V in January. On the truck side, I said, we're entering a market where no one knows us and no one knows our capabilities. We've been doing this for 29 years. So we kind of knew this a year ago when we were down in California. Mike Kim, who ran the development for Fox, got in the truck and he goes, this is like 75, 80% of a full-on $350,000 pre-runner, but it has a license plate. And you can go drive to the mall, date night with a wife, and then off into the dirt in the bush you can go. So I don't think people know how good the Mark V is going to be. We're about to launch it, and how much engineering resources and development we put into the truck. And I think it just paid off. I think the guys out west said, it's badass.
Yeah, and that was the other interesting thing as well is, looking at the Mark V. I've been downstairs, gone around the Mark V and had a look at it. And it's night and day. Like, it's night and day from the Mark IV. I built a lot of Mark IVs,
Yep.
we built a lot in the UK, and I know that platform, and that platform's a good platform compared to the other cars we have in the UK. And I've shown some of the videos to the guys of, competition in the UK and stuff. And yeah, it's night and day from it. Come and see the Mark V, it's a beast. It's a proper, like,
well, if you look at the Mark,
built chassis.
You take the Mark IV. We have a challenge car, which is our Mark IVR. It's our race car. That car with Coyote motor in it, the only limitation is aerodynamics. It's a turd through the wind. That car, I can win just about any autocross. I can win road races. I'm in the top group with a run group, with a race group, with any NASA group. That car, and guys with Cobras like to brag, and they're all full of crap. These Cobras are not, and the original cars were not fast cars. They're dangerous cars. I drove them. They're treacherous handling cars, poorly set up, flexible frames. The guys who won races in those were truly brave and capable drivers. But our Mark IV, our race Mark IV, best on the track. There's not even an also ran in the Cobra replica business. There's no one on the track who's even closest. There's all these one-off cars that a guy's got $500,000 into, and that doesn't count. I'm talking about cars that people are building out there right now. The average guy building a Mark IV has a car that's way more capable than he knows. Leapfrog that with a Mark V. The chassis is something like 3 or 4 times stiffer. It goes from 3,800 or 4,000 pounds to get 2 degrees of deflection to now 17, 15, 16,000 pounds. The chassis, by ditching the 4-inch round tube now, we got 2.5 inches of vertical space in the cockpit, and we moved the bulkhead. So now the cockpit, finally, a big and tall guy, a Wookiee, can get in it and fit.
It's huge.
Oh, it's huge. It's definitely huge. When I sit in it, I have to have a seat track to lift the seat up because I'm Magoo. I'm here's the dash, and you know how a lot of the replicas, the guy's driving, he looks like Magilla Gorilla.
Yeah.
Here's the windshield, and he's way up over it. You are sitting down in that cockpit, and you got tons of travel for the clutch and the brake and throttle. That's just the surface. I said to Jim, I said, pull out the stops. I want the best times 10. So the torsional rigidity, the stiffness of the chassis, I can't wait to build an R version with that. It will be faster and it will handle better. Jim tweaked the front suspension. Now we got forged control arms for the IRS, which you British guys love the IRS. You can't stand solid axles. You know, you think like
It's
that's
the
all
roads.
NASCAR boys.
It's the road. It's not so much the NASCAR boys. It's the roads. You know, you guys have never seen a corner. You know, like, and I can
No,
fully agree with that.
you
know,
went across country, right?
We got on the highway and it said in 607 miles turn left.
Yeah, right.
And it was like not even
You're
a
on
turn.
I-90 straight
it was
across.
like it was a little kink.
Yeah.
You know, we're like, that's not a corner, and we all got excited about it. There's a corner coming! Come on! Like all hyper up, and it, like you spend 3 days in the car with another dude. You know, you get excited about the simplest.
Big sky country, man.
Yeah, our roads are completely different. The roads are set up, everything.
So that's why IRS is the way to go
IRS,
in Britain.
In the UK, IRS with your softer shocks that you do now, you do a touring shock.
Yep.
That on an IRS is perfect in the UK.
And the forged arms look like a GT40. I mean, they're beautiful. They're and honestly, we don't have to weld them anyway. There's nothing wrong with the welded arm. They look great, but those forged aluminum arms are just, I mean, you look under the suspension and it's proper, you know, it's just beautiful. But it goes more than that. So we got the suspension in the chassis, we got the space, and then we're looking at things like hard tops. You know, I think Jim literally with John and shaping and the boys over molding spent a year on this hard top. You know, every Cobra hardtop starts with the windshield, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the windshield's kind of sticking up and flat. So when you put a hardtop on that, you got to clear the roll bar. So you got to come up and then back down in an arc that is not beautiful. You look at all the Italian designs of the 60s, short wheelbase Ferraris, and they have this beautiful teardrop. Our Daytona Coupe has that, but it's got 5 more inches of wheelbase. When we got rid of the 4-inch round tube, we got 2.5 inches of height. And Jim totally gave me a head fake. He goes, Dave, yeah, he was going over specs. He goes, I'm going to have to drop the roll bar by, 2.5 inches. And I'm like, no, it's safety. You can't lower the roll bar. Yeah. He goes, well, the driver's actually a little bit more than 2.5 inches down. So I'm actually raising the roll bar by 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch. But by doing that now, and by pulling the windshield out and making the windshield part of the hardtop, now you have finally, I think, a Cobra hardtop that looks beautiful. That's the Le Mans fast top. Yeah.
You show me the pictures.
It's in the paint shop right now.
Yeah.
So we'll have it in a week or two. Paintable glass.
Absolutely stunning. He showed me the initial picture of it, and I was just like, "So that looks cute." But you got a coupe over there. Like, what's the deal?
It does sort of look like a coupe, doesn't it?
He talked into it. So then he jumped onto it, and he's like, "But the difference is, on your coupe, you can't take the roof off. So you want to go do a sunny day with no roof on it? Take the hardtop off, you know."
Dave, maybe it depends on how you edit this, we can show some of the photos of that hardtop. I think, so when you look at the Mark V, it's that chassis, space, control arm, suspension. There were some tweaks on the spindles in the front. Braking, Willwood brakes are great. The stock GT brakes are good, but there was always a little pedal pressure and effort.
Oh, he's put power brakes on it now.
Power brakes
Game
now.
changer.
That's an option. Yeah,
Game changer.
Definitely. I think it'll change the way people drive on the street because people are used to power brakes. They just get used to that, and they have to get used to a factory 5 brake. Now they don't have to. But down the list, there were so many things that, let's do this. Let's do this. The windshield. I don't know if you remember putting a windshield on. You're like Tyrannosaurus Rex under the dash upside down trying to get those fasteners on. Now we have the bolts that are basically welded to the frame. So just burp one in and you're done.
We have children to do them up, so it's fine.
Small child labor in UK.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah. It's allowed.
You're going back when? Thursday?
Yeah.
You got another day here?
Yeah, so we got tomorrow here. Yesterday we did some briefings, gave you a shakedown on what we broke, what we found, what we liked, what we didn't like on the truck. Then we went to some shooting, did a lot of shooting because we're allowed to here.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you went up to New Hampshire.
Yeah, so we went to 6 Hour up in New Hampshire.
Freedom, baby.
Yeah, that and Snack and Bacon pretty much like signs off the deal for
Snack and Bacon.
Oh, so it's a Dunkin' Donuts.
They have
thing
different words for things.
No, it's on the time.
Snack and Bacon.
It says Snack and Bacon.
Oh, okay. I thought that was a British thing.
No, it's fried bacon with maple syrup and cracked pepper. It is literally a game changer. That's it. We're signing off. We're coming over here.
All right. So if I have it's dark in my backyard and I have this thing in my hand that shines light, what's that thing called?
So you have a torch.
A torch. No, it's a flashlight.
Well, it depends where you buy it from. So
and what are chips and fries?
Chips and fries. Well, see, this is where it gets a little bit complicated because I spent a lot of time over here, so I'm kind of more using the right words
50-50.
now, not the wrong words.
All right, we'll go back to the torch. What goes in the torch? What is the source of energy that you put inside a torch to make it? Batteries.
Yeah, battery.
Trees where bats live. Batteries.
Batteries.
Yeah. Batteries. We say batteries.
Yeah.
Dude, I love the way you talk. And this is kind of cool because 400 years ago, you guys landed.
And you spoke like us. And then we
That's
let
where the
you,
whole party got started,
yeah.
Plymouth Rock, you know? Have
Yeah.
you been to Plymouth Rock?
So we haven't done Plymouth Rock yet. I did do all of the touristy bits when I first came over in
Yeah.
2008. I came over here and did the touristy bit, and that was really good. Like, it's a cool city. I like Boston.
Yeah. A lot of history.
I like over here. But obviously I've traveled the country now in 2 weeks and seen a lot of stuff. The middle states, we can kind of drive that through night. We'll ignore those.
Oh, yeah.
There is nothing. Like, the
Yeah,
land
Nebraska, that's a good
bends.
8 hours straight
Yeah,
across. New
that
York, same thing.
bends before you see something else. Like, the world physically bends in curve before you see something.
I love it.
Go over to the other bits, Utah, Colorado, Nevada. That's some good country.
It's beautiful, isn't it?
That is some stunning country.
Yeah, I live in California. My wife and I travel around the West Coast. It's just beautiful out there. It's big sky country, It's just so. Where you're going to back home if you get a contract to build some of these trucks and build a couple of them, you're going to build them here or back.
No, so we'll build everything over here.
Right.
For two main reasons. One is production costs. You can build a third cheaper over here than you can in the UK. We're going to lose, over 4 trucks, we'll lose probably about £50,000.
If you were bringing the trucks in, do you still have to do a VAT?
Yep. So we have to do VAT,
no matter what,
duty,
even if you're going to export them back
yep.
out.
So VAT, duty, everything like that.
That kills you.
Yeah, it makes it unworkable. So yeah, the trucks will get produced over here for either the contract, either the military contract, or civvy clients wanting them, stuff like that. I'd probably do it more out west because you've got the playground to test them, and a lot of the stuff on the military side of things is out that way, so it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, that would be the plan. You do that. With regards to the UK side, UK side would still keep going.
Right. If someone's going to build a Cobra or a Coupe, they're going to see you and do it there. We got right-hand drive, and I think the Mark V is going to go blow people. We got to get one over as soon as possible. I think we have 8 production. I think we're scheduled to have 8 built by January 11th for stock before we start selling them, and maybe just put a ribbon on one of them and send to the UK. Do you have any other kits going over? Because that would be one.
So we've got a stock Mark IV in at the moment.
Mark IV? Okay.
So that's on the shelf, ready to go. Anyone who wants it, come in and buy it.
All right.
That's just sat there. The rest have all been signed off. People already had them already. We've got a fully built Mark IV sat in the showroom, just sat there looking pretty, ready to go.
Nice.
Jet grey, Coyote powered.
All UK specs though.
Yeah, all UK right hand drive. Phenomenal machine, absolutely phenomenal machine.
Yeah.
That Coyote on a UK road with that Coyote, it's game changer. We got friends with Porsches, high end Audis, BMWs, that sort of stuff, and you're keeping up with them and upsetting them because they're like, I should be going faster than you.
Yeah, right,
I should
right.
be leaving you in the dust, and you're like, come on, guys, let's go, let's go
play.
play.
Yeah, pick it up.
It is such a capable machine, and I think that's the other thing as well with the UK market, especially, is people go into it with the pretense of oh, I'll get used to that, or I'll make a compromise and things like that. Like, we had one dude come up, he got out of the car and he slammed the door, and we're like, oh, it's a bit harsh, I thought you liked the car. And he's like, no, I just wanted to slam it to see if it was as good as my Audi door when I slammed that. And he's like, it sounds the same. That whole steel inner with the fiberglass outer skin on it, the whole car just, it's light. Well, we already discussed it. It's light years compared to the competition that we've got.
Well, and here's a good way to wrap up. I talked to an investor that I had worked with previously on Local Motors and looking at Factory 5, and say someone came and bought the company, there's changes they would make that I wouldn't make. And working with you, this guy is good people. This guy is veteran, served his country, worked with our forces, a lover of freedom, someone who's fun to hang out with, shoot guns with. We're going to go to Gateway for lunch. I get to make those decisions, and I don't have a board of directors and investors telling me how much I can invest in new product development. If I want to take the lion's share of the profits and pour it into the truck and the Mark V, I can do that. And it's really fun when you're building a company and you're working with people that you love and people that you care about. And yeah, profits are important. You got to pay your bills, but I don't know. I think the way in which we make our money is more important than the money we make. And I love the way in which we're making our money with you. Your whole story of that trip is so hardcore and so grassroots and so honest and genuine. And if our product's right, it'll help our boys. If it's not right, we can either change it or we don't want them to use it. We want to do something that helps our country. And so it's pretty fun. And I feel so lucky to run this company and have people like Mad Dog, yourself, not just part of the team here, but suppliers and partner companies that we've worked with that we found over the years to be just the greatest people around. And I can't think of anything more fun than hoping this project works. If it doesn't work, we still had a lot of fun.
Well, yeah, we had a lot of fun doing it. Even like if it works, if it doesn't work, it doesn't matter. We had a good time doing it, and I
Yeah.
think that's the key as well. And it flicks on both sides of it. You know, the whole point of this is we do it. Yeah, we got to make money, like you said, but we do it because we enjoy doing it. Like we like coming into work, we like getting up and doing this, as opposed, and that's what sells the product. You know, people don't want to come up and be hounded for the sale and hounded for this and hounded for that.
Yeah, and I don't like these companies that build stuff, but they don't use their own products. You know, it's like if you don't love what you're doing and you don't love driving what you built, we did the Mark V and I channeled my little Tony Stewart. I got in the car and I already knew Jim had already driven it, rattle patrol, nut and bolts. I just dropped the hammer on it and just drifted around the parking lot. And the thing just, it was very responsive. It took me all of like 6 seconds to completely get used to the Mark V because all the things the Mark IV did, the Mark V just did better.
Yeah.
But dude, it's a good way to make a living. Dan, that's a hell of a lot of work, man. And thanks for coming out, driving cross country, hanging out with your military buddies on the other side of the pond. And let's go have some lunch and have some fun, guys. Dan Walsh, UK and European distributor for Factory 5 Racing. If you want to build a Cobra, a Coupe, a hot rod, one of our Factory 5 designs, he's the guy to go to. And now with our new XTF truck, he probably knows more about the XTF than most people around. So talk to him, email him. Solid Car Guys, this is a solid car guy. Factory 5, Dave, we're out. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Dave Lindsay, and thanks for checking out this episode of Solid Car Guys. This podcast is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The opinions shared by the hosts, guests, and participants are their own and do not reflect the views of Factory 5 Racing or any affiliated companies. The content is not professional advice, and any reliance on it is at your own risk. Neither Factory 5 Racing, the host, nor the guests are responsible for any loss, injury, or damages. Always seek professional advice for vehicle builds, safety, and regulations. Racing and modifications carry inherent risks. On behalf of Factory 5 Racing, build and drive responsibly.